Hey there, it's Laura Dominic. Thanks for joining me on a Plan for Joy podcast. Each week we'll be talking about things that will help you break the cycle of depletion. You know, the one that has you going from doing all the things to feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, resentment, anger, to sucking it up and starting all over again. And instead, learn to break the cycle and contribute from a place of abundance. Are you ready? Good. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to the fourth episode of a Plan for Joy podcast. And I'm so excited today because it's the first time that I'm going to be interviewing somebody. So we're just going to see how this goes. Probably won't be perfect, but that's okay. So we're going to talk this week about gratitude, mainly because this idea came to me. Of course, it's in the United States, it's Thanksgiving week. And so a lot of focus is always on gratitude during this time of the year. Providentially, I'm going to be speaking with Jenni Cassidy, and she's from England, where they're not celebrating Thanksgiving this week. But she's grateful or gracious enough to join me, and we're excited to have a discussion about gratitude. And so I wanted to just introduce Jenni and say thank you very much for joining me. She's from Norfolk, England. I'm excited to be talking with her. So let me have her introduce herself. Thanks, Jenni.
Thank you. Thank you. I am grateful. I'm grateful that you invited me. Honored that you invited me. It's lovely. But yeah, it's funny. We don't really have Thanksgiving here, but we should. I think it's great how you guys do it. It's a great thing. So yeah, like you said, I'm living here in Norfolk by the sea in England, and I have 7 children. They're all, well, I have 3 at home still, twins. The youngest are 13, and then up to our eldest is 25. He's actually lives in Virginia with 2 small children and his lovely wife. And I have another son who lives in Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
Who's recently married. But yeah, 7 altogether and 3 still at home. We've homeschooled all the way through. We lived in Austria for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
My husband's from Scotland. We met there. We've actually only been here 4 years. So we have lived various places, Ireland before we came here. But one thing about being in Austria, we were at the Franciscan University of Steubenville, study abroad campus over there. So we have a lot of American connections.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Sure. Well, so how has gratitude played a part in your life personally, or how have you imparted it to your children? I mean, you've got the kids, you're always saying, say thank you. And it seems like they're good when they're little. You got the cute little 2 and 3-year-old, thank you. But then it kind of dies down a bit. How has that worked in your life and in your family's life?
Well, like I mentioned before, I had read this book when the kids were really little, actually. Probably I maybe had 4 little ones at the time when I read the book by Anne Voskamp. I don't know if anybody's heard of that one. It's called 1,000 Gifts, I believe. Is that the title? 1,000 Gifts, I think. That was really quite a big deal. I remember reading it, I think at a time, when the kids are little and it's easy to complain about a lot of things, that you're not getting enough sleep and they're driving you crazy and there's so much laundry to do and, all the things. I think it's a particular time when you have a bunch of little ones that it can be very easy to complain a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think that book came along at the right time, because I think gratitude really is the opposite of complaining in a lot of ways, right? It's like, well, one of the things, Anne, as far as I remember, it's a long time ago now, but what I remember getting from the book was that she encouraged you to list your things to be grateful for. Mm-hmm. And I think I know what you mean, where sometimes people aren't journalers or they're not really writing down people, and I'm not actually, I don't do it consistently now, I sometimes think I should probably take it up again. But at the time, the whole thing with this book was just to write 1,000 basically. And it's pages and pages. You're not writing them all at once, but that every day you maybe just would write 5 or 10. You would just have this ongoing notebook that you would write the things in. And even if you never did it again, I think the exercise of doing that, even just once through, however long it would take you, somehow it shifts your mindset. I think you could do it without writing down, but there's something about the writing that I think gets that process more solidified, maybe in your mind. I don't know. But I think I started to, the whole thing, you're doing the dishes thinking, look at the pile of dishes that I've got, and the kids have made a mess of this, and I've got to clean. So that all those temptations that you have to complain, you start to turn it round and look at them and say, aren't we so blessed to have the food to eat, to put on the table, and not have to worry that financially, am I going to be able to feed my kids this week? Or look at the amount of laundry that we've got, but imagine if you never had a washing machine. And that, to be grateful that I can do a laundry every day if I need to, and I don't have to go somewhere else, or so like turning it round from complaining into being grateful for all the things. I think that was a big thing when the kids were little.
Especially what I found too, with homeschooling, because there's a lot to complain about.
Yeah.
And so and inadvertently, without even really having had exposure to Anne's book, I had written or put together a homeschooling journal, a gratitude journal, because I was finding that you're focusing so much on all the things you have to do and that they don't want to do and that they're complaining about. And I thought, you need some focus, like you said, to change that focus, so that when you get to the end of your homeschool year, if you wrote down 3 things a day that went well, that you were grateful for, you could have a whole book full of good things. And so you would look much more fondly back on that year.
And then the kids would see it. It's like, I think they don't, it's very easy to get that complaining attitude. And with the kids being like, come on, I've told you this so many times. Why don't you, and be like, why don't you ever? And I've, always repeating yourself, and you can become a complaining mother, And then they feed off that. Like, they become whingy and moany, and, whereas we're like, if you change that into gratitude more, they pick that up. They imitate us more than we wish they would sometimes, right?
So did you take like more of that, I'm going to transform myself, and have my kids pick up on it that way? Or were there any
I guess I think
specific things?
I think a lot of mothering's like that, isn't it? Sort yourself out. Well, it's not even mothering, it's anybody, isn't it? If you've got something you want to pick fault in somebody or a child or some other person, it's ourselves that we need to work on more, isn't it? And I suppose that if I become more grateful, that's going to affect the whole family.
Definitely I've seen that in action, and that's even too, you're going to have a much more positive outlook the more grateful you are. So I can't remember where I read it, but somewhere I read you can't be grateful and grumpy at the same time. And so it's definitely going to have just to change the general tone of your household.
And who likes somebody, I mean, if I think off the top of my head, people that I know, if somebody's really, I think we probably all know those people that are just, oh, hi, how are you? And they're like, oh, I'm okay, but there was this and that, and they'll tell you a whole list of things that are terrible. and it's really hard to be around those people.
Yes.
And when you realize, oh gosh, am I like that? You don't want to be like that. People don't want to be around you when you're like that.
Right. No.
Not that you should deny when something's a problem and pretend everything's fine when it's not. But I think there's something different about being a grateful person. Look, I'm finding this really hard at the moment, but you know what? It's really helped me. Everything can be looked at in a positive light.
Right. And I was reading, I don't know if you're familiar with the series In Conversation with God. It's
yes.
Just I think such a staple of prayer. And so I was reading just the other day they said about gratitude is really a social virtue. So it's something we need to do. It's up there with friendliness and mutual respect and affability and things like that. And they were saying in that book or in that meditation that when you tend to be more grateful, it's like an instinct to pay more attention to other people, the general welfare of your home, your environment, yourself, those around you. So it's one of those things. It's a virtue, and then it grows into other areas. So I thought that was
such a selfish thing, really, isn't it? Was gratitude is it like it takes you out of yourself more or something? Yeah.
Right. So a lot of times we think too, and I think you even mentioned that it's not that you have to ignore the bad things that are happening. I mean, that's not healthy. We know that you're not supposed to just skip around and grateful and happy and cheerful all the time. Bad things are going to happen, or things that upset you, things that you don't like. They have to be dealt with. That's a given. But how can you practice gratitude when things don't go the way you want them to go? Have you? How do you do that?
I think it's another, and maybe that's something that comes out more as our kids get older and we talk to them about attitudes and our faith and everything. It was making me think, something bad could happen, or there can be some, I don't know, financial difficulties in the family, or sickness, or just thinking of the sort of sufferings that are typical in so many families. And I thought, if I don't have gratitude for that thing that's like a cross, as it were, it's almost saying, I mean, we're grateful to God, right? We're, thanksgiving and gratitude and everything. You hear people saying gratitude that don't have any faith. You feel like, what? Who are you great? You have to be grateful to somebody, right?
Right.
So it's like we have to be grateful to God for allowing this suffering. And in being grateful, it's like us saying, I trust you. I know you know what you're doing. If you're not grateful, if you're saying to God, why did you, I don't want that suffering. I'm not grateful for it. I'm going to complain about it and I wish it would go away. And it's not trusting, is it? It's like the opposite of trust. If we're grateful, we're saying, thank you, Lord, for allowing this cross, because I don't know what you're up to, but for some reason you think this is good for me, or this is going to help me get closer to you, or someone get closer, or whatever it is. It's a trust, isn't it?
Right.
And that's, please God, that's what we teach our children as they get older, is that ultimately we want them to trust that God is in control and not us, and that we give him everything and allow him to do what he knows best, not what we think is best.
Yeah. And I think too, I think I learned that by, you go through a difficult time and all you do is complain about it. And then time goes by and you see the goodness that comes out of that cross, and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. All I did was complain about that because look at what it just happened, what came out of it. And so I think that happened so many times to me that I was like, okay, let's try to take a different perspective. And
yeah,
maybe I'm not, skipping around with joy that this is happening to me by any means. Again, you have to deal with that part of it too. But just, okay, like you said, thank you, Lord. I don't understand it, but somewhere down the road, maybe I will.
Yeah. And maybe it's through gritted teeth that we're like, Jesus, I trust in you. Okay, right. Jesus, I trust in you. I don't know what you're doing, but and yeah, complaining. It's like complaining is almost like rejecting God's allowing something that He knows is best for us, and by our complaining, it's like us saying, I don't want you to have control, or I want to be in control, or it's a prideful thing, I suppose, isn't it?
Right. So now you had said earlier when we were talking that two people came to mind to you in relation to gratitude, not both saints, but
well, I think we've kind of covered it already, but that whole it crossed my mind about Corrie ten Boom. And it was ages ago again that I read her story. Such a good story if people haven't read it before. But she, and if I remember it correctly, she was in the concentration camp and she had the mattress was covered in fleas, and it just sounded horrific, being sleeping, spending so much of their time in this flea-ridden mattress that was just disgusting. But she thanked God for the fleas because she said it meant that the guards didn't really bother them, and they would have these Bible studies or whatever. Do you remember that? I don't. They had Bible.
It's been a long time, right? Yeah.
On the mattress, and the guards would keep away from them, and they never got in trouble because the fleas protected them.
Yep.
And imagine how easy it would be to complain about fleas, but right. She didn't, because she was like, look, and that turning round, what we might find out later. Thank God that seemingly bad thing happened, but look how good it turned out. And sometimes we still don't know some things, and maybe we'll never know until we hear it on the other side. Please God.
Right.
So Corrie ten Boom came to mind, and also similar again was again, it's been a long time since I read it, but a really good story is the biography, I guess it would be, of Louis de Montfort. And there was an occasion where he used to build these stations of the cross up hillsides, and part of the story was that he built this amazing one. So many people helped him. It was so much work, and then I can't quite remember the situation, but it had to be completely destroyed and demolished. And you were so heartbroken that but all that work, and it was, you felt you just wanted to be mad about it yourself. But he would say something, I think he would say, blessed be the name of the Lord to absolutely everything. And he walked days and days to get there and all those things, and he would just be grateful. That's a really good story, his story.
Yeah.
Somebody's looking for another read as well.
No, yeah. that there's a lot of good examples in the saints, and that's why it's so important to turn to them. But, and you had said when I was bringing this up in the Facebook group that we're in, Catholic Mothers of Young Adult Children, in case anybody's interested, you can find it on Facebook. Yeah. You had said, when I said that about looking to talk to people about gratitude, just what you said struck me, in that instead of complaining about a half empty glass, just enjoy the deliciousness of what you have in your glass. And that just it kind of struck me because that's kind of the way that I am with gratitude. Is I'm not like, I've tried it before where I get up every morning or before bed and list things that I'm grateful for, but I find like I'm just trying to, I don't know, I list the same things, and it doesn't move me. But in a moment, if you're looking at what's going on in the present moment, and you can say, okay, look, the sun is shining and I'm so grateful, or I'm grateful for the rain, or whatever it is, what's right in front of you, look around, what can you be grateful for in that present moment? And that's why that comment kind of struck me, is that I like
maybe
to be
even
able to
looking at the if you're tempted to look at the half empty glass, you're tempted to look at the negative thing, or the next time you're tempted to complain about something, try and switch it to, okay, this is really tough. Not to deny something isn't tough, but this is a really hard cross I've got right now. But if I didn't have that cross, and try and look at the focus on the thing, well, hopefully there is things to focus on, that
right.
there are usually positive things underneath that we just need to look for.
Any last words you have about gratitude or anything? I know I'm grateful for everything you've said here, because you've had some really nice and different insights, and I appreciate everything that you've shared with me and with everybody today. Anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for the reminder, because I mean, I sound like I do it all the time, and I definitely don't. I'm thinking I might go back to that Ian Voskamp book. And it's kind of encouraged me to think, I know what you mean about the writing down and just thinking about the moment instead. But I'm wondering whether it's just to say, even for a week, I'm going to write 5 things every day. Just give yourself a time limit on it.
Right.
Maybe that would be a good challenge to have. So I'm grateful that it's got me thinking about that again. And even, I know it's a hard thing to keep up long term, but even just for a spell, I might, maybe just between now and Christmas or something.
Right. It could be a good Advent practice.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I like to do call to action here, or for people who listen, or read my newsletters. So I'll put that out there. Why? And it is, when you were talking about making that list and just having that record, to be able to go back and look at when you can't think of something to be grateful for. I think there's definitely value in that. So,
so that's just reminded me, there's another book, On Fire, John O'Leary. Have you come across that one?
No.
It's not really a faith book. It's just a really inspirational story.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was in that book, but I've heard him say it, that he wrote a letter for his wife, and it was almost like a gratitude journal. He realized he was starting to take her for granted and starting to sort of complain a bit about things, or things that irritated him, and the negative was coming in. And he decided that he would write, I think he might have done it every day for a year. I mean, even if you did it every day for a month or something, he wrote one thing like about her that he loved, or that he was grateful for, or something. And he just made just a little thing every day, and he gave it for her birthday or their wedding anniversary or something.
Oh, neat.
The list. So I mean, maybe it'd be a nice Christmas gift for someone. All the things you're grateful for about your family or something. Or
right. No, that would be a neat idea. I will definitely list or link to all these books in the notes. So if you're interested I'm definitely going to check that one out, though. I hadn't heard about that. So a lot of good ideas. You can, just for upcoming Advent preparation for Christmas, keep a gratitude list for yourself, or create a list for someone else in your family. And I have heard that for like just as a marriage help, to focus. Again, it's so easy to complain, But if you focus on the little things about your spouse that you're grateful for, it can definitely turn things around. So so we'll put that as a little challenge or idea just to enrich your time, the time between now and leading up to Christmas. I think that'd be a great. I was wondering what I was going to do this year, so thank you. That was.
Well, I've just given myself an idea.
Right. See, you never know what's going to come out of conversations, right?
Exactly.
So here in, like I said, in the United States, this Thursday, the week that this is released, will be Thanksgiving. So always a good day to practice gratitude. A lot of times people will sit around the table before they eat and everybody shares something that they're grateful for. And then right after that, we head into Advent. So a good time to focus on this stuff and prepare our hearts better for the coming of the Lord at Christmas. So I am, again, grateful for you joining me here. I appreciate you taking the time. And after we figured out the whole 6-hour difference here between you and me.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for having me.
And maybe you'll be back again sometime on another discussion. So
great.
Thank you. And everybody have a good week and God bless.